No matter how much innovation various companies incorporate in manufacturing vehicles, the crown of the first combustion engine vehicle remains on the head of Mercedes Benz. Although the car brand is not regarded as the most luxurious car today, it has the history of some of the most outstanding inventions that later shaped the automobile industry. So, let's zoom into the era when it all started. But before that, press the subscribe button on the right-hand corner of your screens and hit that bell button to get to know some of the most inspiring business stories. Born Karl Friedrich Vaillent in 1844 in Mühlberg, Germany, the boy didn't come from an affluent background. His father died of pneumonia when he was only 2 years old, thus leaving behind the family name Benz and a struggling mother who fought poverty for the rest of her life. Karl's mother didn't compromise on the education of his son, which led the boy to become an automotive and design engineer from a polytechnic institute. Apart from his mother's belief in Karl, his prodigious nature played a vital role in his success story. By his 20s, Karl gained enough exposure to working in engineering firms that led him to business. However, his first commercial effort ended in vain when the foundry he made with August Ritter saw collapse after 1 year of business. The year was 1871, and Karl was left with no options to finance his miserably failing iron foundry. Bertha saved Karl's business by investing in his business with the money she received as her dowry. With his fiancée's support, Karl regained his confidence in his passion for automotive engineering. He kept working day in and day out to invent things from the future. Imagine being in an era when horses were the primary power source for a vehicle. Carriages were the normal locomotive option, and nobody would imagine an engine instead of the horses. Karl was continuously thinking about the engines, though. His experimental nature gave the world the first combustion engine that could run at the speed of 20 kilometers per hour at a fuel tank capacity of 4.5 liters of gasoline. Did he get there through a paved road? Absolutely not. His journey to the combustion engine was no less than a horse carriage ride, bumpy and full of twists and turns. When Bertha funded Karl's business, the only aim Karl had was to invest his time in getting patents for his inventions. He came up with numerous inventions like the carburetor and the clutch. However, he was still not producing anything in bulk, and the business was running at supreme costs that were almost impossible to cover without bank loans. Karl had to take a business decision that will again leave him in misery. To get the bank loans, Bertha and Karl needed an association with other businesses. Karl formed the association with a photographer named Emil Breuer and his cheese merchant brother. However, the decision ended in Karl's sour state in his position as a 5% shareholder of his own company. Karl shut the business off. Keep watching to know more about Karl's endeavors. If you haven't yet subscribed, press the subscribe button on the right-hand side of your screen. In 1883, right after the demotivating experience of association, Karl started another venture. Karl Benz, being the invested engineer, had a passion for bicycle repair that led him to Max Rose and Eblinger, a couple that owned a bicycle repair shop in Mannheim. The venture proved to be a huge success because Karl kept working for the idea of horseless carriages and finally managed 3 initial Benz-A models of internal combustion engine-based carriages. The carriages were patented as Benz Motorwagen. They were nothing like the modern Mercedes you see today, but a horseless vehicle with many problems. The first Motorwagen had serious control issues. Although the combustion engine idea was working, the vehicle collided with a wall on its test ride. The year was 1886. Till then, the Motorwagen was not a commercially available vehicle, and Karl had his doubts about marketing the concept. He worked hard for his dreams, but was afraid of commercially launching the vehicle. That's when Bertha again decided to play her part. Bertha was a staunch supporter of all the efforts of her husband. She could sense his fear of commercializing the vehicle, so she decided to take a totally unimaginable route of her time. She decided to travel from Mannheim to Pforzheim, where her mother lived. The distance was 104 kilometers, and Bertha took her 2 boys along, calculating every pharmacy on the road. Why pharmacies, though? Of course, to get medicines along the trip. Wrong. Only pharmacies sold gasoline back then, and Bertha had to refill the Model 3's gas tank along her way. Her plan was a secret for Karl Benz, and he only got to know it once his family got to his in-laws' place. Bertha announced her adventure through a telegram. But before reaching her mother's, Bertha found discrepancies in the motorwagen's performance and fixed things like brake lining, with the help of a cobbler on her way. Another problem with the Model 3 was its only 2 gears that didn't allow the vehicle to go uphill. The engine kept heating up, so she used water to cool down the engine. Nothing stopped Bertha though. She completed the journey, showcasing the ability of the motorwagen Model 3 to travel long distances, and marketed the vehicle along her way. On her return though, Bertha had many suggestions for the Model 3. Karl introduced a 3rd gear that could help navigate the vehicle uphill, and Bertha became the inventor of brake pads through the work she achieved with the cobbler on her way. It was Bertha's belief in Karl's inventions that the world also noticed Motorwagen 3 and finally pushed Karl to sell the product in the European market. Today, Bertha's contribution to the Benz CIE is celebrated in Mannheim by tourists taking the same route that she took to her mother's. The route has its historical value that most Benz lovers want to cherish. Benz-A started selling its Motorwagen in Europe. The first country was France, where Benz Patent Motorwagen made its footprint, and then continues the legacy till today. It was till the late 1890s that the company kept selling the Motorwagen, then moving to Benz trucks and buses, which also worked on the same 4-stroke combustion engine principle, but with more seating capacity. During those years, another German engineer, Gottlieb Daimler, was working on inventing a high-speed liquid petroleum engine. The two companies had a rivalry till the early 1900s and then later merged in the year 1926 to form one of the biggest automobile companies, Daimler-Benz, that we now know as Mercedes Benz. The story of Mercedes Benz doesn't cease to amaze the business world with characters like Karl, Bertha, and Daimler. The German land produced the finest and the most persistent automotive engineers who changed the world with their precision and never giving up attitude. That's all for today. Keep coming back to listen to more interesting business stories. Till then, press the subscribe button to get notified of each new video.